everybody, and welcome to episode 10 of the Come Play podcast. This week, we are without Brendy, but we still got Bobby and Zach here. So what's up, guys?
What's up, guys?
Yo.
Right, just taking Brendy's role this week.
Yeah.
So this week,
Yeah, it's so
we
dead
have
about Brendy having him to say something snarky right off the rip.
Go fuck yourself.
This week on the podcast, we got a lot of topics this week that are definitely thought-provoking. We're going to talk about most importantly this week, the big news that came out of the NBA about the G League and college players. We have a little bit of a World Series preview. And we're going to talk about the NHL substance abuse policy now with Canada legalizing weed. But first, as always, we start off with Zach's thought of the week. So I'll hand it over to you, Zach.
Welcome to my thought of the week. As clever and vulgar as it always will be, you can fuck anyone in the world.
Oh, God.
But as soon as you put your dick in, it turns invisible.
What? It turns invisible?
Yeah, you can't, it just turns invisible. You can't see it.
Jesus.
You can still control it and do what you need to do, but you can't see it.
Okay, so what you're saying is after this happens, you can still fuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like something where it can still be hit, but it's just invisible. You can't see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's still...
Okay, it's still functional. Okay.
Yes, it's still
Okay.
fully functional. You just can't see it.
What are the downsides to this?
Yeah, I don't see the downside here. Well, we gotta say who's the person we're going after. I think that'll.
I mean, he said whoever you want.
Yeah, whoever you want,
So-
but it's invisible.
Who's it for you?
It doesn't matter who it is. I mean,
okay. So you ever? Okay, so I mean, I'm a relationship, and it's always been talked about celebrity passes, right?
Yeah, hall passes for sure.
Yeah. So what would be yours? I guess
Kate
Kate
100%.
Upton. Okay, but so now imagine it's her, right? So then is there a downside to it?
Nope. I don't see the problem.
Zach, did you have one? Is there a downside?
a downside to it. I mean,
Yeah.
it would just be weird, just not
It
being
would
able
be
to see it.
weird.
I mean,
It
I
would
guess
be
it would
weird.
be if you're trying to take a piss, you might be pissing all over the seat because you can't really see. You might have to sit down and piss.
Yeah, when you
No,
take
it's
a
not.
Our
It's not.
podcast always comes back to piss and shit.
It's only when you're fucking. It's no other time that it becomes invisible.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, way up now.
It might be a little awkward at times during that whole thing.
It's her. She can't see it either.
That's fine. She don't need to see it.
Jesus. Okay. I mean,
And
I
this
mean,
is some
fuck it.
perfect world where it's consensual and everything. There's nothing
if you're telling me that
Weird
I have a
going
chance
on.
to fuck Kate Upton and then my dick's invisible, yeah, I'm taking that.
yeah. No.
but
Oh,
no
no
one can
question.
see it. She can't see it. You can't see it, but it's there.
That's fine.
That's a little bit of extra spice in the bedroom, my man. I
It's a little less
you're
spice,
It's
honestly.
like you're blindfolded 24/7.
Oh my God.
All right, hold on. I got
I'll
a
do
quick
it.
question to go off this. Who's your celebrity? Who's
Oh.
celebrity crush?
Jesus.
Celebrity crush.
Who's top tier?
Yeah.
Who's the person you're going after in this situation? Celebrity wise.
Yeah.
Jennifer Aniston.
That is.
That's a solid pick.
That's a solid answer.
She is so fine, bro.
And she's still doing it now at her age.
She's
Come
still
on now.
fine now. I'm talking about
She
Jennifer
don't age.
Aniston now.
Yeah, I know. She's one of those celebrities who just straight up does not age at all. She is still just as gorgeous as she was during Friends. I mean,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. No, definitely Margot Robbie. for me.
Oh my, another solid, dude. All solid. I mean, I don't know how. I feel like people are like either yes or no about Kate Upton, but solid answers all around.
I feel like there were like when Kate Upton was first like I guess like on the scene, like when she did her first like swimsuit issue for Sports Illustrated or whatever, like everybody was like all about her.
Yeah,
Like she like I remember just how like everyone loved her, and then for some reason I don't even remember why, like she just like people kind of forgot that she's still
I feel like she gets
a
like
very
a lot.
gorgeous model.
Like there's obviously people still out there who still like love her, I guess, in terms of that. But like, I feel like she gets a lot of hate. I don't know why.
I don't know why either. I don't know if there's something that happened that I'm just not remembering or whatever. But I mean, she's married to Justin Verlander.
Yeah. Who is making those? I can't even imagine their net worth together.
Oh, I know. I mean, he's this total ace, and she's a one of the top models in the United States. So like, I don't know. But no, I think Kate Upton's a solid pick too.
Interesting start to our sports and video games podcast this week. But as always, Zach's thought of the week, and now we move on to.
This is what Zach ponders and meditates about in his room. I swear, you just sit in a corner and you just think about these things.
By the way, if we sound off today, it is early in the morning. I mean, it's 10 o'clock, which is not early to some people, but
it's on. You know what? It's on a Sunday, so it's a little early.
It's on a Sunday.
And it's also like we were just dealing with some last minute production things, so we're just we're a little out of it today. But we're still going to give you a show. Show must go on. Doesn't stop. The train doesn't stop.
And we start off our show with some video game news. This is honestly like, to me, it's almost unbelievable because I can't believe it happened. But a player by the name of, and I forget his name already. Good start to the show. Forsaken, Jesus, from Optic. His name is not Forsaken Jesus. His name is Forsaken.
Forsaken Jesus. Yes.
Yeah, Optic Forsaken Jesus. What a goddamn name.
But so he was, excuse me. So he was at a tournament against I don't know.
I think it's like a Chinese team.
Yeah, so I think what I was reading up on it, it was a like a qualifier or something in the.
I'm sorry,
Asian...
I shouldn't say Chinese. I'm assuming it's some Asian team. I should say. I apologize.
India.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. No, well, so it's Optics India team, but the tournament was an Asian event. Like it was the 2018 Asia Finals. So
yeah,
that includes like I'm assuming like Japan, or
gotcha.
China, Korea, stuff like that. I think.
So they were playing a team by the name of Revolution in a Group C elimination match, and it was a 100K tournament. So obviously this is a big deal. And during the event, the play was stopped for what they called a serious event. And upon everything happening, and there's videos out about it now, but apparently he was caught for cheating, for using what looked to be an aimbot, with the I guess the admin literally right there, like just he's trying to hide his screen and stuff like that. Zach, I'm gonna turn to you right off the bat because I know you were the first person to talk about this when we brought up the story, and I feel like you have some strong opinions on this.
Yeah, I mean, this is just pretty ridiculous in general. I mean, why would you cheat in an esports tournament? You're gonna get caught pretty easily, like using an aimbot. It's pretty obvious to tell when someone is using something like that. I just don't know why you would even try to cheat.
To be fair, you're watching this video, and I feel like there's gameplay of him using it, and I'm like, how does this even go on for this long? I feel like if somebody's there watching you play,
that's what I'm saying. I mean,
I don't know.
They're obviously not checking as well as they should be.
So, all right, I might have an answer for this. So, first of all, I just want to point out, Optic was already getting slaughtered, in the tournament. Like they finished 0-2. They lost 16-6 in the other, another game. So, it does get interesting. So the admins don't typically, as far as I know, check computers like beforehand. Like they'll set them up, but then at that point, that's it, and they'll help people sign to their accounts and stuff like that when they need to, whenever the teams switch. But there's been multiple instances of this where people have like been able to put software in like the mice and the keyboards, because every player brings their own mouse and keyboard. It's just kind of standard. And they've been able to install programs this way. I don't know how he did it specifically. What I want to know is like it had to be some sweat and bullets, risky business installing that software on that computer, because the video guys always have your screen on. So if they were paying attention, they would have seen him installing the software. And I don't know if he was trying to hide it in the corner or something or whatever the hell happened. But at some point you're going to get caught for it. Either it's funny because Counter-Strike Go also has the VAC ban software built into it, so it's supposed to detect these things, and it happens on LAN too. Like which has happened before.
Well, it's also this player has actually been banned previously because of the VAC built in. He apparently had a banned account. He had a banned account previously. So this is not his first rodeo.
Right.
But like it's so weird to me. Like if these like so-called referees are standing there, like, because you're watching a clip, it looks like they're just kind of standing behind the players as it's happening. Like, I don't know.
I just don't understand like why he thinks that it's going to be okay, or like no one's going to find out, especially after he already cheated once.
Well, I wonder if it happens more often than we think, and maybe people are getting away with it. It's kind of like drugs and sports, right? Like you never know really who it is until they get caught.
No, I mean, like, look, the NFL, like, isn't it once a year and it's scheduled?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
at least for yeah, is that right? I think that's right. It is scheduled. Yeah.
Let me look it up, but
I think like, well, they do like they can do random drug tests. Like, well,
let's save this topic for the NHL.
But let me guess though, they do the random checks on the problematic players.
Right. So, well, it's actually funny because I don't know if you remember him, but Pat McAfee was a punter for the Colts.
Yeah. Oh, I remember.
And he's with Barstool now.
Yep.
And he's the funniest dude on this fucking planet. I swear to God.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
But he was saying that I forget how the story went exactly, but he had like a monster punt, like maybe one of his his best punt ever. And then the next day, he got a letter from the NFL saying that he was due for a drug test.
Wow.
So I think they do quote unquote random drug tests throughout the year, but yes, they do. Like, I know they do drug tests in the.
Dude, imagine if you like failed for weed or something like that. Weed's making you to punt that ball further.
Well, this is what we'll get into in a bit with our other topic, right. But yeah, in terms of that, I think they happen like at the beginning of the year and then randomly throughout the year. But
so yeah, the Optic Psycho. So Forsaken was released from Optic, and Optic was disqualified in the event for this. Mm-hmm. Deservedly so. I mean, the players probably were not. The players in the organization were told that they were. I can't talk. The players in the organization have both said that they were unaware that he was doing this. And I'm not surprised by that. And it does kind of suck for them because I'm sure they worked their asses off to get there and just to cheat. So I got to think, and the other thing I was going to say to Tyler's point before we started talking about the drug testing was that, how you a referee, you stand behind and you don't see it. Because I wonder if it wasn't unless they're like wall hacks or anything where you can see through walls and stuff like that, because that would be picked up right away. What it might have been is something along the lines of an aimbot, which doesn't have to be visually cued, like just kind of sits in the background and you can just shoot and all of a sudden it's a headshot. I can't find anything that says exactly what the software was, but it was an illegal piece of software, whatever it was. So that's why I think it wasn't seen, but that's just me.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think just I just don't know how much sense it makes for this guy. Like,
I don't know,
I
man.
don't
Like
know.
you're already on the team. You've obviously gotten there by just your skill, mostly,
Yeah.
and it's like
Well, you think at least.
Yeah, seriously, like I get it. It's a high profile game and everything like that, but I don't know. I don't know. That cheating never makes sense to me for stuff like this. Like you're gonna get caught, especially in esports. Like you're not slick. You keep trying to be, but you're not. That's
Yeah,
just
that's my thing about it. Like, you're gonna get caught. So why?
This guy
yeah,
should never be allowed back in
yeah,
Well, the fact that it's the second time too, like,
yeah.
or the second time he's got. I mean, he probably happened more, but the second time he's got caught like cheating,
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like, yeah, I
Like I don't
agree.
think there's any unions yet. I mean, that's something that esports has yet to really kind of do is have like players unions and stuff like that. Um, I don't know like what the rules are in terms of suspensions for things like this. Um, but whatever it is, probably should be throwing the book at them, or at least
Yeah.
investigate what it was. What was the software? If it was an aimbot, then give them a year, like or something at the least. But here's the thing: like even if they don't like ban him like from the league, teams are not going to want to grab him. I mean, he's obviously a problematic player. I mean, he's already had a VAC banned account, which I mean that could mean anything. That could be him. He bought CS:GO a while ago, and he was messing around on it on like an alternate account or something. Like it could really be anything. But this is not really a good look for him. So
Yeah.
teams would probably be very hesitant to pick him up. I'll say that though, but there was a team that there was suspensions for match fixing, and they were relieved of their suspensions. I don't know where they went afterwards, but so maybe there's some hope there. But as a team owner, I'd be very hesitant to pick someone like him back up.
Yeah, I agree. Now we move on to some sports news. Kind of just an acknowledgement here, just because we don't want to get too into it. We'll probably talk about this more once the series is actually over. But the World Series is set. The Los Angeles Dodgers come out of the National League facing the Boston Red Sox. After the Dodgers won Game 7 last night as we're recording. The first game of the series is scheduled for Tuesday, October 23rd. It's an 8 o'clock game. They're all 8 o'clock games throughout the series. Interesting for people who are into betting. Boston is currently minus 130, which basically means you have to bet 130 to win $100. So they are the favorite right now, which is not surprising. They had an incredible regular season and have kind of blown by in the playoffs. So yeah, kind of just an acknowledgement. Just a little. I guess I could kind of give my opinion on how I think this is going. Um, I see a lot of people right now are like fucking like having the Red Sox sweep the Dodgers. I don't think it's gonna be like that. Boston's got has got a sick lineup. Obviously, the players they have, that outfield of Mookie Betts, Bradley, and Benintendi is a young outfield with a lot of just it's an incredible outfield and young at the same time. One thing that is interesting is their ace Chris Sale has had like a stomach infection or some shit. Like I'm not really sure what it is. He was
Who was it again?
Chris Sale. Uh,
No, there was something funny that he said about it. Hold on, keep talking, but let me find it. There was something funny I read about him yesterday about that.
I wasn't sure what it was. I know he was out for an illness.
Oh yeah, no, you know what it was? I found it. It was he I can't find the clip. But apparently in the locker room he told reporters that he said he was hospitalized due to an irritation from a belly button ring.
Oh.
And that's the story he's going with.
Okay.
So that's the story, but I don't know how true it is.
Yeah.
But he said this comes from Bleacher Report. Quote, I had irritation from a belly button ring. Constantly taking it in and out caused irritation. Doctors and nurses at MGH were awesome. Things happen. You handle it and keep moving forward. So somebody, I forget who tweeted it, so I'm sorry for not remembering, but someone tweeted it, and he said this with a straight face, by the way. Like, so there you go. Chris Sale, everybody.
He's expected to start game 1 with David Price expecting to start game 2, and then for the Dodgers, it's interesting because they had Kershaw come in to close out the game 7. So I mean, he only threw a handful of pitches, so maybe he starts game 1. But yeah, I'm not really sure where they're going there. But yeah, I think like I said, a lot of people are having the Red Sox win this easy. I don't think it's going to be that easy. I think the talent that the Dodgers have, what they got, the depth they have is really their big thing. Their infield depth is insane. So they got Turner, Machado, and uh, like is basically a definite with third base and shortstop. But then they got Kike Hernandez, Brian Dozier, like Chase Utley, who is close to me and Bobby's heart because he was a longtime Philly. Like he's not even sniffed the field because of the infield depth they have.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I honestly, like, if I'm making predictions, God, it's so hard to go against Boston. But I don't know. I have a feeling this series is going to be closer than people are saying it is.
I think it's going to be very back and forth. I don't know if I'm comfortable saying it'll go to Game 7 quite yet, but this is a series that is very quite possible.
I don't know. If I had a prediction, I'd probably say like Sox in 6.
They're a little more stable. I don't know. Something about the Red Sox team is a little more stable. Like the Dodgers are very, up and coming now from guys like Machado.
I believe that the Red Sox are 12-2 in the World Series in 2004, I think.
I'm trying to think. The last World Series they won was in 0.
No, they won in the 10s, didn't they?
No, they made it to the World Series, but they didn't win it.
Yeah, this shows how much I know about fucking baseball. No, they won the World Series in 2013.
Oh yeah, what the fuck am I talking about? Okay,
yeah, I was gonna say
I'm blanking. Because I'm trying to think. Yeah, because that's right. They play the.
They won 04, 07, and 13.
Right. Okay. I apologize.
And they were 12-2 like between all three of those series, right?
Was that what it was?
Yeah,
I think so.
Dear God.
Yeah, like that's ridiculous.
Is that really what that is? Oh my Lord.
Wow. I mean, right now they're 7-2 over their first two series against the Yankees and the Astros, which they were probably supposed to win both those series. Not supposed to win both those series, but they were the favorite, and they kind of won it handily. So, yeah, I mean, I think I agree with them being the clear favorite, but yeah, I think we'll talk about this more when the series is probably over, honestly, just because, well, Brendy is also our baseball expert, and he's not here with us today, obviously, so we'll kind of get more insight on him.
The CPN baseball analyst.
But we'll wrap up the the World Series when it's over and kind of give our takes on everything that happened. Should be a good one. A lot of teams with a lot of talent. It's kind of going on the point I said before about baseball with no salary cap. These are two of the teams with the highest payroll in the league. No surprise that they are where they are. And by the way, just want to kind of give it up to the Brewers who put on a hell of a series. As a Pirates fan, I've seen them struggle in the NL Central for years, and they're a really good team now. So they had a really good series. Christian Yelich, the year he had, will probably be the NL MVP. Yeah, gotta give it up to them. But yeah, like I said, we will revisit this when the series is over. But for now, we move on to a very honestly insane topic. There's a lot to this, so we'll kind of go piece by piece here. But former New England Patriots tight end Aaron Hernandez, we've all heard of him for the wrong reasons. I will give a very brief summary if you don't know. In 2013, he was he murdered his at the time friend Odin Lloyd. and was released from the team, and then ended up getting, he went to jail for it, and then in jail, committed suicide. But there's a lot more to this. There's a report that came out this week. I don't know who it was originally put out by, but ESPN.
It was investigated by the Boston Globe.
Okay, there you go. So, of course, ESPN picked this up, so that's what I'm on now about it. But there is like just it's crazy. So they basically talked to a former teammate of his, Brendon Lloyd, who was a wide receiver. I believe he was a wide receiver because I believe if it's the same Brendon Lloyd I'm thinking of, he used to play for the Broncos, wide receiver for the Broncos. But either way, he was talking about his behavior.
He did.
In the okay, it is him then. I can't remember if he played for the Patriots or not. Either way, he was
did
talking
play for
about
the Patriots. He played for Denver
his
too.
behavior. It's like, you know what? So this is
Just read some quotes.
yeah, and like I know this is what 5-6 years ago now, but and I will in a second, but I just have to say like the it's almost how things have changed over the years because if this happened in today's society, like only 5 years later, like I feel like something would have happened. I'll get to that in a second, but yeah, I'll read some things. So this is, like I said, from Brendon Lloyd. Some of the things he said. Excuse me. He said there would be swings where he'd be the most hyper masculine, aggressive individual in the room, where he'd be ready to fight anybody in fits of rage. And then he said, or he'd be the most sensitive person in the room, talking about cuddling with his mother. Or he'd ask me, do you think I'm good enough to play?
Like just being like totally like insecure.
Yeah. He also
Dude, what?
Dude,
he,
if you haven't read this, just listen to this. It's insane.
I have read it. It's still just like what? Like,
so Brandon Lloyd also recalled Hernandez saying he would F up a fellow wide receiver, Wes Welker, um, during a 2012 training camp. He said, I'm sorry, I'm like reading this as we go. That's why I'm kind of pausing in here. But he said he's looking at me wide-eyed. Lloyd recalled, and he says, "I just want to warn you. Uh, I just want to warn you that Hernandez is going to talk about being bathed by his mother. He's going to have his genitalia out in front of you while you're sitting on your stool." By the way, I'm reading all this from ESPN because I don't want to, you know, get in trouble for this as I'm reading off of this. But yeah, it's crazy stuff. Like, I just can't believe somebody didn't like say something to somebody. You know what I mean? And I don't know.
I guess like what do you gotta think in a locker room, right? You do your best to have a solid relationship with everybody, right? You have to. You like think of what you're doing. You're basically sleeping together, traveling for from August to February.
That's your coworkers, pretty much. You keep, you got to keep a good relationship with them.
Not only is
least
like
resistance, you got to get along.
So like it's your coworkers, but like if you've ever played sports, like your teammates like become your family kind of thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But my point is, let's say Wes Welker decides to go to Bill or right up to Robert Kraft and say, hey, something's not right with him, right? And they do some, let's say the Pats organization takes him seriously and they go in and start doing an investigation on the guy, right? So they start investigating and they find nothing because at the time there really was nothing. At the time of all these events, because I believe this is before he ended up killing Owen Lloyd. So and then at that point, obviously Hernandez is going to hear about it because I'm sure he was going to be interviewed or interrogated, whatever you want to call it. And at that point, that hurts the relationship. And if you're that scared of what he's been saying to you, imagine how scared you're going to be if that dude that you just ratted on comes after you, right?
Yeah.
So he's an interesting player. So I mean, I'll admit that I wasn't paying too much attention to him during his time. Obviously, the first I really I knew he was a player, right? But I didn't know much about his past, right? So he has some. I believe he had some type of gang affiliation of some kind. I think.
He also got in trouble at he went to college at
He's in Florida, right? Yeah. Was he with Tebow?
Yeah, he was, and I can't remember what exactly it was, but I remember him getting in trouble there. I don't know if it was
It's in this
a
article.
substance thing, but I remember him being like having problems there too. Another thing that I just want to add was and I found this just interesting. So, there's a report also out that Tom Brady was talking to Tim Tebow apparently about him, um, and just saying like he's a lot to handle and stuff like that. There's also in here they were saying that at a walkthrough, Hernandez came to the walkthrough in like flip flops and was kind of messing around, and Brady basically told him like get your shit together because like there's actually a quote here. It literally says Tom said shut the fuck up and get the fuck out of here, or get the fuck out of here. Like he was just messing around, and obviously that's not going to fly in any team but a Brady and Belichick coach team. Like, so he was just like all happy and laughing, and then when Tom told him that, he was basically like just very depressed and stuff like that. Like,
Well, they said it went from like him laughing and being disruptive, and as soon as Tom told him off, he stormed off. Like it was almost like the mood change was instant. It was like an actor getting into character, kind of thing.
right?
Like it that's scary, dude.
Yeah, I just it's so
I
what
heard
I was
numerous
saying
stories of this.
before. Like, I know this is only 5-6 years ago, but like there was recently why can't I think? Oh, I got he's the defensive tackle for the Vikings. His last name is Griffin. Everson Griffin. He's right now not on the team because of and we don't know what it is, so I don't want to speculate because nobody knows what it is. But he's taking basically time off right now for a behavior issue, like not issue, but like he's having problems himself. Like, just this is only 5-6 years ago, but I feel like if this was happen now, like something would happen. Like I can't believe like with all this stuff like he was saying about um and just like being with how his mood changed. Like I just find it hard to believe like somebody didn't say something, or at least he wasn't sent somewhere for evaluation. Like I don't know, it's crazy to me. Just with everything we know now about mental health, uh, and and maybe some of this was like, so what I want to know is I think this whole report came out, like all this they're talking about with the quotes and stuff is from 2012, and it was January 2013 when he was when the murder happened, I think. But yeah, I just like it's just crazy to me like how this all unfolded like back then. Like I just feel like there'd be a lot of change now. But either way, I mean it's just an incredible story. From what we know, there's also another port that I don't want to get into because it's there's obviously stuff about it, but there was a report that he was sexually abused as a child. Um, so yeah, there's a lot to this. It's going to be interesting if anything
He
else comes out.
was He was obviously a very troubled person. I mean,
Yeah.
I am not going to excuse his behavior of taking a life, potentially multiple.
Mhm.
But it's obvious that he had a lot of identity issues. He had a lot of past trauma that he was dealing with, and um, it's kind of they could all just kind of came back. I mean, Yeah, I was thinking he's sexually abused. At some point, he in this article it talks about how he was making mentions of gay sex. Remember, the dude had a wife. I mean,
And a kid.
yeah, and a kid. And part of it's believed anyway. Part of the reason he uh, committed suicide was because then the Patriots owed money. So what it meant is that so apparently when he died, he was still appealing case, and he passed away in prison from suicide. So there's a weird law that was apparently like if there's still an appeal or there's a process of appeal going through, and somebody dies in prison, then that calls for reasonable doubt because that means that there could have been an argument that could have swayed a conviction, and because of that, he died a non-guilty man for one of his counts, which meant then that Patriots had to pay the rest of his salary to his family, which was somewhere upwards, I think, of like $6 million or something like that.
Right.
It's
which I've seen too. Yeah.
right, and I mean, he had it was posted, and I'm not going to find it right now, but he wrote a letter to his wife and everything like that, and it's as heartfelt and as strange as you could possibly get. It's a messed up story. I think I even said 2 weeks ago something along the lines of what more could they be writing about this guy because he came up in another conversation. Here we are.
Yeah. I mean, this is I like when I first seen this story because I believe I was the first one to find it, and I'm like reading through this, and I'm like, what what the hell like is going on here? Like, I almost didn't like I was like I had to check I'm on ESPN, right? Like this isn't some like fake like
No.
website. Like what is going on? But yeah, it's incredible.
What also sticks out to me is that like how vivid these memories are from these players like years
Yeah.
later. Like it freaked them out that much. What gets me the most is that Dane Fletcher, who was a Patriots linebacker, who started as a rookie, same time Hernandez did. They had a quote volatile relationship since they both got on the team. Apparently, at one point, Hernandez confronted Fletcher in the locker room and was apparently, quote, laughing at him like the Joker in Batman.
Yeah.
How do you sleep at night?
Yeah, like so.
God,
Because this is also just part of the whole thing too. So yeah, he was laughing at him like the Joker, and reminded Fletcher how much he disliked him. And then Fletcher cursed him out, and Hernandez responded by saying, "But here's the deal: I respect you." Fletcher said.
well, Fletcher said right afterwards, he's like,
Yeah, I started
bigger
laughing because for once he was the bigger man than me. That broke the shield between us. But I just there's so much to this.
it's freaky. It's messed up.
Yeah.
It's tragic. It's a mess.
Just knowing obviously what happened afterward. Yeah, this is a scary thing. But if anything else comes out on this, because I find this as sad, kind of as sad as it is. Like I do find it interesting. Like this report came out, it's very interesting to me. I have I was gonna say a passion. I don't know if that's the right word, but part of me might be going in for psychology for college. So like stuff like this is interesting to me, and like psychology in general is interesting to me. And this kind of falls under that category with his mood swings and stuff like that. So if anything else comes out, we will cover it.
It's gonna be big, whatever it is. I mean, if there's anything more, it's gonna be head turning. So
Yeah. But we're going to move on to some more NFL news. The report came out this week that apparently the other NFL owners in the league are not happy with how the San Diego at the time, but now LA Chargers move has went. But unfortunately for them, they aren't going to be moving again anytime soon. Basically, they have a lease from the stadium that is being built for them and the Rams. It's a 20-year lease, which would put them at the 2039 season that they could again move. But a lot of people are not happy because of how they're like literally, this was a big thing. I think they actually talked about this before. When I was saying about how they use a silent snap count at home because, like literally half of the stadium is fans of the other team. Like, it's honestly crazy. But they were talking about, how the fan base is not like great right now, but also I was seeing that Goodell was saying, I don't know if it was jokingly saying this or serious, but he was saying, "Well, look, they have 20 years to figure it out, so I'm not worried about it. Like fans will kind of warm up to them
Well,
over all this time." But
I mean, more of his thing was that like that they're building a new stadium that's not up yet. It should be. Is it next year or the year after? Like 1 or 2 years?
I think so I'm not sure because I think it's next year. Like I know they're building it now, but it's going to be a stadium for the Rams and the Chargers.
New
Similar to
stadium in 2020 is what it said.
Yeah, okay, 2020. So similar to how the Giants and Jets do it with MetLife, they're
Right.
gonna kind of do it that way. But yeah,
Yeah. So Goodell thinks that that new stadium will cause fans to flock. Not sure. Maybe I'd be excited to see a new stadium, but um, his other point was that look, we've been out of LA for a long time, so they kind of have to earn their way back. Um,
yeah,
that makes sense to me. We'll see if that holds up. This gets interesting though. If all of this was uh, a bust, because there were apparently owners who were really weirded out by this move, from what I
well,
remember.
yeah, remember when it happened. Like obviously the fans of San Diego were upset. Like they were trying their hardest to keep him to stay. That
Right.
didn't happen, and I think anytime I know it's you're in this. They're moving in the same state. Like it wasn't like they're moving like the Rams moving from St. Louis to LA, but like I think there is going to be time to adjust just because that's the nature of the beast. And also, not to mention, like, they're in a city with another team in the Rams, but like, in that state, you got the 49ers, you got Oakland. Um, I think, you know, as it might just sound like a dumb point, but like basically what I'm saying is like there's other teams like that um that fans already had fandom to, and them moving there like it just their attendance has been. I mean, I don't know how their attendance is overall, but like I swear, it might be like 60-40 in terms of like their fans there.
Right.
But I was talking earlier when we were doing I think we were doing the NFL preview. I was saying how they have to use a silent snap count at home because of them, like the noise, the crowd noise in their own stadium from the
Right.
opposing fans. Like it's insane to me, but yeah, there was I guess other owners around the league were kind of skeptical of the move, are now more skeptical because of you know how how fans have kind of flocked to their games or have not flocked to their games would be the better point, but um we'll kind of end it there because I don't know how much there is to go off of this, but it's just interesting because now we have the Oakland Raiders will be moving to Vegas after this year. Will we kind of see the same thing? And how does this bode for other relocation, not only in the NFL but in other sports? Like, does this kind of make them rethink um, moving teams? So I guess, well, like I said, I think the Raiders move will be interesting as well because it's one of those things where the San Diego fan base is even as bad as that team was for years, they were very loyal. It's the same thing with the Raiders; like they've been kind of up and down for years too, and they're very loyal. So, will that travel when they move to Vegas? And especially we're talking about Vegas, it's very obviously very touristy place. Like, how will their fans kind of come? What's going to be the thing there? So yeah, a lot of stuff that we can definitely kind of touch on in the future, depending on what happens with that. But um, I don't know. I honestly, the Chargers are a team that are on the. I think very highly of them.
Mhm.
They're on the up and up for me, and I mean I think they have potential to be a very good team. So, um, I really hope this works out, just because you don't want to see a right now they're 4-2 as we're recording. They're playing the London game. They could be a 5-2 team, and like they have like 40% of the stadium is not even their fans. So I don't know. Something we can touch on later. We're gonna move on now to a college football topic. Nick Bosa, defensive end for Ohio State, is a potential first overall pick in this next upcoming NFL draft. Has declared that he will not be coming back to Ohio State after he had I think it was actually back in week 1 or week 2 this happened, but it was week 2 because they were playing TCU. Sorry, I'm thinking out loud here. He had a core muscle injury that would likely have him coming back sometime in December. Instead of coming back in December, he has said he's just going to focus on the NFL draft, getting healthy and stuff like that. And again, he'll be a top pick. So I want to have this conversation because this opens up a lot of different things. So a lot of people are kind of on him because they're like, oh, giving up on the team, like NFL GMs are going to see that and they're not going to draft you. That's horseshit.
No.
He's doing this because the amount of money he's guaranteed to get if he's a top pick in the NFL outweighs the possibility of him coming back and getting injured. And also, Bobby brought up a point which I'll let him talk about, but this whole Le'Veon Bell situation kind of like is with this. We've seen it with Earl Thomas. He came back, after holding out, and then he got injured, and that could cost him a lot of money. I don't know. I'll just get your opinion on this. Like, what do you like? Is he like an ass for not coming back, or is it something where you would say, if you're in his shoes, like be like, yes, again, the money he's going to be making from being a top pick, do you think that outweighs coming back to school?
So the point that I made was that, and I really have no proof of this from writing, but I got to think that part of the conversation that Nick Bosa had with his family and with Urban Meyer and anybody else involved in this decision had to be look at Le'Veon Bell. And the reason I'm saying that is because Le'Veon Bell obviously has been making a ton. We talk about him almost every week on this podcast because of what he's doing with his contract holdout with the Steelers. And the whole reason he's doing this is to show how worthwhile he is, because he's under a franchise tag with the Steelers, which he didn't want, right? He didn't want it, and he wanted, he just wanted to get the money that he believed he was owed. And here we have Nick Bosa kind of doing the same thing. He's injured, right? And as I understand, he's the time frame, the earliest time frame for him to return from this injury is December. December in the NCAA football season. Now we're talking playoffs, which Ohio State, although they lost last night, thank God. Ohio State now is 7-1, I believe. So,
yep.
They're playoff contenders, and they've been looked at as possible championship contenders. So, so you're talking playoffs, right? So let's say Nick Bosa comes back, right? He says, "I'm going to come back and play in the playoffs." Let's say in the playoffs he gets hurt. He's now a draft risk. He's now, this one injury keeps nagging him. He can go from being the potential number 1 overall pick to late in the first round.
Well, and not to mention, hey, look, I'm not a doctor, but a core muscle injury doesn't seem like something that you want to mess with.
Right.
Also, I'll kind of give an example. So Jake Butt, the Michigan tight end from a few years ago, was he was, if he didn't get injured, you're looking at maybe a second, third round pick. What happened? So he tore his ACL in the bowl game, which is exactly what I want to get to, because he tore his ACL in the bowl game. He ends up falling to the 5th round. The Broncos take him, and now in his NFL season, I think it was 2 weeks ago, he's ruled out after missing last year completely because of the tear. 2 weeks ago, he re-injured it again. He's out for the year again. So my other question I want to bring up to you is, with people saying, Nick Bosa is a traitor kind of thing, like leaving his team like this. There's a whole debate already about these meaningless bowl games that top picks sit out for because again, it's meaningless. It means absolutely nothing except for like an accolade for the college. Is there, I guess uh, my overall question is like, what is your take on this? Because I just feel like, especially with this, like Nick Bosa already knows he's going to be a top 3 pick. What's the point of risking it? Risking millions of dollars in money just to come back, and like you're leaving after this year anyway. Like I know it's this whole teammate loyalty thing, but at some point you got to kind of look out after yourself. So like, how do you feel about? I want to get your take because I think it's kind of a hot button topic, especially when it comes around like players sitting out because of like these bowl games.
I think the bowl game is not okay. The bowl games are kind of meaningless. I mean, it's not the NCAA championship. They're an accolade for the school mainly, but winning a bowl game does look good on your NFL resume, but that's definitely not what everybody's looking at.
Also, I just real quick, I want to mention like maybe I'm also talking about these like I swear to God they make these up like the bowl games they're coming up with now like that are just like I'll look some up while you're talking, but like they have the weirdest names.
Oh no, I got
like,
it. No, the Chick-fil-A Bowl, the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah,
it's my favorite is because they do the sponsorships this way. Is I feel like it sounds like now just have to keep reading their paper on what it is. Like it's like I don't know if it was Auburn. I'm just using that as an example. Auburn has won the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl, and it sounds exactly like that. And it's like really, what really? Listen, you got to make money somehow, I guess. But Jesus, it's a money run. It's not anything that special. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's high caliber football. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not. They're fun games. I still put them on. But it's either Nick Bosa plays in a bowl game or Nick Bosa has a legendary career in the NFL.
Where he makes millions of dollars.
Where he makes millions of dollars.
Right now.
And the other thing I want to add is like, so now when Le'Veon Bell started making noise, right before the holdout, that when he was starting defending, I was on the side of, well, why would he do that to his team? But then I'm starting to realize now what he's trying to say, and it's that he knows what he's worth. He's arguably, I mean, Todd Gurley's been amazing this season too, but Le'Veon Bell's arguably been the best running back in the league, and he knows that he's worth the millions, right? And the whole point was that, so why would he risk getting hurt in his possible last year with Pittsburgh when he could hold out and then get a big deal with another team where he'll get paid the money that he thinks he's owed, right? I mean, that to me makes sense. It's about the future. You can't be, football's a high contact, high speed. Anything could happen at any moment, right? Like so. And Earl Thomas, I think, was the final nail in the coffin for me to finally understand what Le'Veon Bell's been trying to say. Last year, he wanted, he wanted out of Seattle. He wanted to go somewhere else, I believe. And
Dallas was the rumored place because I believe he's from Dallas.
Right. So he
Dallas
wants to go
area.
play for Dallas, right? Dallas probably would have paid him. I mean, you can argue, because Ezekiel Elliott's still there, but Earl Thomas, he broke his freaking leg. Like that. That's just one of those random things. It was exactly what happened to Derek Carr. Like it was just random. Like one hit, it just broke his leg. And that might have just cost him millions of dollars because it's going to now cost him, it's now going to be months to rehab, right? And it's not surprising that he flipped off the Seattle's front office for this. I mean, it just, I'm starting to see it now. It's a future protection plan. It's not I'm betraying my team. It's to make sure that they're good enough to bring the services elsewhere. And it's not really about the money. I mean, careers are short in the NFL. I mean, they're pretty damn short, right? And you don't want to lose the potential to make money and to make an impact
with your career
And
because you wanted to play one extra year with a team that you probably didn't even want to be at.
yeah,
So this is Nick Bosa just protecting his future. He knows that he's a draw. He knows he's a top pick. Him missing his last year in a bowl game does not hurt him. What will hurt him in the draft is if he gets re-injured, if he comes back and gets re-injured, and he knows that. To me, this is the best move, and especially since it's a senior year, right? Like this is his last year.
I
Like,
don't know if it's his senior year,
but
to
it's
be
definitely
honest.
his last year.
I know he's going to the draft. Like he was going to go to the draft anyway. Yeah.
So if he already had plans to go to the draft, I mean, he's already being eyed by the scouts, and they're ranking him high. So why would he risk getting re-injured if he definitely will get picked at a high rank and be paid for it? I don't see anything wrong with this.
Yeah,
because, and that time frame of December, that's early. Like that's not that far away, and it's still probably not 100%, right? Because even when you come back, look at what happened to Carson Wentz, right? Like he tore his ACL, he was a little rusty when he came back. I mean, it happens, and anybody who's injured, it happens. You're off the field, off the court, whatever, for X amount of time, and you come back, you're not the same as you used to be. It takes you a game or two to kind of get your footing again. So Nick Bosa would have to come back during a bowl game, during a high caliber bowl game, most likely, and try and play on the level that he's used to and get potentially hurt. It just makes sense. Listen. So I mean, I will never claim to be a all-star athlete, right? But I played basketball in high school, right? And I injured my back in a summer league before my sophomore year. I had to take that season off. I probably could have played and came to practices and stuff like that to learn for toward the end of the season, but it wasn't good for the rehabilitation process. You know what I mean? Like I had to get it better. I had to get it strengthened so that I could come back and play and not have to worry about re-injuring it again. You know what I mean? Like it happened.
Yeah.
And I also understand the team loyalty side of things, right? Like, I mean, if I played hockey too, and that was like my sport, and when I was younger, I had dreams of playing in the NHL, playing for the Philadelphia Flyers. I'd probably take a bullet for that team. You know what I mean? But guys like this, have a future, and they make a living off of it. To me, it's they tell you to plan for the future. That's what he's doing. He knows he has a bright future ahead of him. He's not going to hurt that because he needs to make a name for himself in Ohio State. He's already done that. So,
yeah, I agree with honestly everything you said, and like he's not getting reevaluated till November. So like you don't even know. I mean, more than a bowl game, the thing that he would basically worry about is the college football playoffs start December 29th. But Ohio State lost last night, so they have a long way to climb now to even get to that. So, no, I agree 100%. Like, I think you have to protect your future. Another thing that maybe we can have this as a big topic one day. I keep bringing up is the NFL not having fully guaranteed contracts. Anything can happen at any time. You don't want a college injury to affect your career and you losing out on millions of dollars. I don't know. A lot of a lot of people are hating on him for this. And a lot of people do actually get the side of it. It's just the biggest thing I'm seeing is people saying, "Oh, he's not loyal," blah blah blah. Like, I just, I don't know.
I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
I don't. Yeah, I just think that you have to protect your future. And yeah, the more and more I thought about it, that whole Le'Veon comparison and Earl Thomas is like kind of the perfect analogy for him because, Le'Veon, all he's trying to do is protect his future, try to make as much as he can. And anything can happen at any time, and your career could be over. So, I agree with it 100%.
No, it's a good move. It's a good move. You made the right bold choice.
A lot, like I said, a lot of the top picks will sit out for the bowl games and stuff like that because they don't matter. Yeah, I just overall, because like we said, he's going to be coming back in December when there will be bowl games. Like, I just don't. I think to protect his future, this is the right move. All right, we will move on. We're gonna get Zach back involved here. For this topic. So if you haven't seen, the other day, weed was legalized in Canada, marijuana, and
Marijuana weed.
marijuana,
weed,
weed,
cannabis,
cannabis,
pot,
fucking pot, fucking.
dirt.
Anyway, it was legalized in Canada, and uh, right away, I think that day actually, the face of the NHL, in my opinion now, Connor McDavid, basically said the NHL would be stupid if they didn't look at least look at the possibility of making it, taking it off m- basically making it a thing in the NHL that players can use for healing and stuff like that. Now I will say, the NHL kind of has already a lenient policy about this. So there's actually not a it's not illegal per se. So like if they get caught with it in their system, they aren't going to be suspended or anything or fined. If they have an amount that's enough to warrant it, they can be sent to doctors and stuff like that about it. But since this has come out, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts um, about this topic, and one in particular, which is the 31 Thoughts podcast, which is Elliot Friedman's podcast. He had Riley Cote on, who's a big advocate about this. Riley Cote, if you don't know, used to be in the NHL. He actually is close to my heart because back in 2004, when the NHL was in lockout, he was a part of the Philadelphia Phantoms team that won the Calder Cup, and was their like fighter back then. And this guy, now he's out of the league, but he's a big advocate for this. And now with this happening, he's probably gotten more interviews in the last week. Um, than he has over his career. But yeah, I don't know. Like, what do you? So this is interesting because obviously it's only Canada, and there's 7 Canadian teams, and the big thing for me is with this whole thing about making it legal in terms of players being able to take it is, well, for the U.S. based teams, you know it's not like they can really do anything about this. So, like, what is your guys' take on this whole situation? In terms of how, first of all, how do you think this could help players in the sport, and basically, if you think this is a thing that other sports should consider too. Bobby, I guess we can get your take first.
I mean, so I don't know all of the benefits. I don't have all the research for the benefits of using cannabis to, uh, well, just using cannabis in general, right? So, but I understand that has been used more and more recently to treat many different types of diseases and injuries and stuff like that. And compared, from what I understand, compared to something like the United States has an opioid crisis because of how easy it is to get them, right? And one of the biggest things about it is painkillers, right? You can get addicted to painkillers, and they will really fuck you up, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah.
There, I mean, it's the truth. But cannabis, has by itself is not an addictive substance, right? Like I mean, sure, it puts you in an interesting mental state. And besides that, there's not that many downsides to the whole thing, right? I mean, and if that really helps anybody, not just athletes, but people heal from injuries and other disorders, I don't see why it wouldn't be legal, and why more professional sports leagues wouldn't be looking at this as a possible way to start treating some of these things. I mean, look at football, especially, man. I wish the NFL would be the first league to incorporate this kind of thing. I mean, there's guys taking hundreds of hits a game, like, and they're probably hurting, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you got to get in bed and you got to have ice all over you, man. Like, I can't imagine what that's like. It's got to suck. So, and if this is something that helps and it's being used in a responsible manner and controlled, I want to say doses, but I know it's the wrong word. It's used in a controlled way. I don't see why it isn't allowed. I also think the leagues are kind of in a weird spot because, you know, in the United States especially, it's not nationally legal. Like it's legal in Colorado and in California, and in other states, it's legal to a certain degree, like for medicinal purposes and stuff like that. So it's probably harder to make a very blanket rule for organizations in the United States for that reason. But I do hope, and I basically agree with McDavid's full quote. You know, it would be stupid not to look into it, and that's exactly what should happen. Just keep looking into it. You know, the world's changing and it's starting to become more and more normal. So I don't know why you wouldn't be looking into this kind of thing and possibly making changes as you know, these laws get passed and the science is kind of backing it all up.
Regardless of like the medical benefits of it, I mean it's coming to a point where it's being viewed like alcohol, where people can just use it recreationally. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously it doesn't like it. Yes, it is a drug, and yes, it does. It alters your mental state, but it's not really any different than alcohol, in my opinion. And I think that's how they should treat it. You know, if you're as long as you're not showing up to practice high, you know, coming to games high, you know,
Right.
same deal. You know, you would criticize someone who came to work drunk, high, you know, etc. So just leave it at home.
Yeah. You know, use it to treat your injuries. Don't be coming to games that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly what he said. I mean, there players have, you know, beers at the end of a game or go out to a bar or whatever, and it's yeah, I agree that it's really no different, right? It's the same thing. It's the same risk that goes into it, and if you could be responsible with the alcohol, as long as you can be responsible with the weed as well, I don't see why it's a problem. That's just me.
So, and I don't know. I don't know if this is a fact per se, but on this podcast I was listening to, they asked Cote, what percentage of players do you think in the league are already taking? Because, like I said, there's a policy on it per se, but you have to be caught with um, a pretty big dosage for you to basically be sent to rehab. If not, you know, you're fine essentially. So like, there's a policy, but it's very lenient. But basically, what he was saying was he would probably say 70 to 75% of the league is already taking this, like doing this kind of thing. Like, I just, so I'll kind of put my opinion out there. Like, I think I'm very like pro to this, and like, and I'm saying this like not having ever smoked weed in my life, but just knowing the benefits of, you know, being able to help players recover. I know it helps people sometimes sleep. I think just that. So like, one thing that I can kind of relate this to is, and I think I brought this up before on this podcast, but a book I read about Derek Bugard, who used to be a fighter. Well, he was a hockey player, but was mainly known for fighting in the NHL. Basically, he had a problem with painkillers, and you know, the thing about painkillers obviously is when you start getting addicted to them, you have to take more and more and more and more, and that's what he did, which eventually led to his death. And you know, because he being a fighter, the concussions and he had, and I believe afterward his brain was donated to CTE research. Um, you know, like it just, I feel like something like this could just eliminate so much of that, which I feel like is a problem. You know, painkillers, uh, like I think it's gotten better definitely since research has been done about it, but you know, I feel like it was only a few years ago, like just that was the, you know, if you're injured, here you go, like here's a
Mm-hmm.
painkiller. So I think this can definitely be something that helps. I'll kind of bring this question to you guys. Hypothetically, if just say that countrywide, the U.S. passes a law that says marijuana is legal. Do you think this is something that leagues would definitely do? Like, do you think the NHL, NBA, NFL, MLB is this something that's a layup for them, or is it?
Well, I think so. I think, like I said before, they would just begin treating it like alcohol. It's a 21 plus substance,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's still in the early stages. I think Canada legalizing it opens people's eyes. I know there's going to be a lot of research done with it. I like I said, I totally agree with McDavid. It's something you at least have to look at, like
Right.
just because it's something that, like I said, in a lot of people's opinions, is something that could only help. Um, I think just being able, again, and I'm saying this like if we're all saying it in this way, like if they're using it right, where they're coming in and using it medically, and they're not like obviously showing up the Brecht as high and shit, like I think honestly, I think it's a layup. I think it's something you have to look at. The only problem I see them having as of right now, again, is the whole thing with um the U.S. is still legal in parts of the U.S. So like you can't just have the Canadian teams, like people might think they have a advantage because they're using this. I don't know. It's just something that I think would be hard just because of the way it is right now. But um, I don't know. For myself, I'm definitely pro this, being something in the NHL and other sports. I mean, I think it was it last year? I think it was last year that Martavius Bryant, who is now a wide receiver for the Raiders, but was for the Steelers, was suspended for the whole year for marijuana use. And now I don't know how he was using it. He could have been using it, as I don't know. I don't know if he ever came up and showed to the facility high or something like that, but like, for players, especially in the NFL and the NHL where it's high contact, you're taking a beating out there. I think this is a no-brainer, but we'll
Right.
kind of have to see where this goes, just because, again, with the laws in the United States right now, it's kind of a tough thing. But I think it's something that will definitely get looked at down the line, um, and something that I hope they do look at. I think if enough research goes into it and enough positive comes out and says, this is a good thing, then I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, just look at it, man. Just look at it. Pay attention.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
keep informed. That's all we're asking.
And just a side note to this, like, I'm happy that Connor McDavid came out and said something about it. Like, NHL players are very so often criticized about being very quiet and not saying stuff about big topics, but the face of the NHL, somebody that young coming out and saying that, and I know it's something so simple, but you have to understand if you're a fan of hockey, you know what I'm talking about. Like players just don't come out and say anything about anything. So I'm just happy that he came out on a hot button topic and said what he said. And you never know. Maybe he's like I'm sure he has some influence. It's the future of your league, right there. Basically said something, and the guy who's going to make you so much money, like you got to at least consider it. So, um, yeah, I think this is something that that needs to be looked at, and I'm sure will be looked at.
And we will keep talking about this.
Yeah, sure. I hope it's something that we can come back to and talk about how it's a thing in sports because, like I said, I really believe in it and its benefits. But our last big story we're going to cover today on the podcast is the big news from the NBA, the G League in particular, and this is a topic that has been discussed for years and years, and a hot button topic around the NCAA, just because of players not being able to get paid. But recently, this week, the NBA G League is essentially going to offer top prospects coming out of high school 125K contracts. And basically what this is doing is it's an option to stop the whole one and done thing in college, which is the big discussion that people always have. You got your top prospects who are going to be a top 5 pick in the league. They go to college for 1 year. What's the point? And I'm sure, and what we can get into as we talk about this is we've seen the whole investigation with Arizona last year, paying who was the number 1 pick this year, DeAndre Ayton. The whole thing with paying him. But so my original, so I guess I'll just kind of say real quick too. These players have to be at least 18 years old. So coming out of high school, at least 18 for this to happen. But yeah, 125K contracts. So they have to be 18 and not yet eligible for the NBA draft, but then would be eligible the year after they played. So, this is big because this whole debate, and this is also kind of runs into this big debate with college athletes not getting paid. Here's your alternative. You're basically doing exactly what you'd be doing in college. You're going to play basketball to eventually have a career in the NBA.
Right.
Except you're getting paid.
Right.
What's your initial take on this? As somebody who I guess we can get kind of 2 perspectives here. So, I don't know. I guess what's your original take here on this being a thing?
So I'm actually happy for this. The reason I'm saying that is because it's just the time we're living in now. College is a very expensive thing, right? Trust me, I am in it.
And I'm out of it because
I am paying a ton of money. But for me, that was the best option, right? And that's just me, right? Like this is where I should be for my career choice. So that's why I'm paying to be here. But it is a ton of money. So now that being said, a lot of what, so I'll say this much. So a lot of what college is for players to go to college is careers are short. And I said this about football earlier, but in most circumstances, careers are very, very, very short in professional sports, right? Like you have your rookie years, your starter years, you have your prime years, and you kind of have your years where you kind of start going off the back end, right? I mean, obviously there are exceptions to this. Jaromir Jagr is still playing in the NHL at a pretty decent level, one of the all-time greats. So what's supposed to happen is that you go to college, right, and you play ball or you do whatever, and you're supposed to, you get a degree so that afterwards you have you have the credentials to get a career in something after your professional playing career is over, right? Now, what we've seen though is that doesn't happen because, and you can now I'm mainly going to be referencing the John Oliver a couple years ago did a piece on this. And I'm just going off memory from what he said. So the big players, especially who get like scholarships and stuff like that, they'll get classes that don't mean shit.
Yeah.
Like they like I remember there was one, I forget what language it was. Players at one particular college were saying that they were enrolled in a language class that was like not at like Spanish, not like French, German, Russian, some like other like way out there country language that they would probably never use in their lifetime. They were enrolled in classes like that because it had to fit with their practice schedule, meeting schedule, game schedule, everything like that, right? But here, since that way isn't working like it's supposed to, then maybe taking your talents right from high school to maybe the G League maybe is the right idea, right? I mean, you have it. you have the skills for it, and if the NBA says, hey, we think you're good enough to be in our developmental league, why would you, I guess, not say yes unless you're able to do the college thing the way it's supposed to be done, right? But you see players, in their sophomore, junior year of school being like, okay, I'm declaring for the draft, right? It doesn't work the way it's supposed to. So you might as well make an alternative to college where, you're in a developmental league and getting paid at a pretty decent salary.
So this is like I said, it's stopping the one and done thing. So, an example this year is Zion Williamson, who's going to Duke, of course,
Right.
because that's the college where top prospects go to. He's going to be like a top 5 pick. Like, why don't you just go to the G League where, like, he's obviously he's gonna go in the draft after this year. Like, what's the point of doing that when you can just go to the G League now and make 6 figures? And also, like, the thing about it too is, like for the NCAA, like, there's all these scandals that are coming out now with players getting paid and stuff like that. Like I said, the DeAndre Ayton thing with him getting paid upwards of $100,000 to come to Arizona when obviously that's illegal. Like, they're trying to eliminate that as well. Like, I'm sure the NCAA is not happy about this coming out.
No, not in the slightest.
However,
They are losing money.
yeah, exactly.
They
But
are losing money.
on the flip side, like, I think, I'm such a against the whole one and done thing. Like, I just think it's so ridiculous.
There should not be one way to get into a career.
Yeah.
We're at a different time where college is actually becoming less of a total necessity.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, Tyler, you and me have a friend who, decided not to go to college and instead learned a trade and is now making a very decent career out of it. As a HVAC technician. And that stuff happens. My industry, I actually had to make that choice. So I am in college. I'm a film major. I'm a filmmaker. Everything from broadcasting to short film development, TV show development, everything like that. I already had ins with producers and stuff in the area, and what I could have done is gone the path of, okay, I'll just be an assistant on several sets and try and work my way up that way. It's how it is. I could have gotten a break. I could have worked towards getting a lucky break, but that to me was not the most stable option. But it's something I could have done and something I considered when I graduated high school, right? And that goes for a lot of different fields. They're going the direction of, you don't necessarily need a full-on degree. I'm not trying to downgrade a full-on degree. It's a lot of effort and it's definitely worth a while. But it's starting to turn a little bit where people are not wanting to go to college, especially with how much it costs. Like, that's just the world we're living in now. So this is the alternate path. This is not going to, you think, you don't have to spend 4 years. And I'll relate it back to Nick Bosa. What if you get hurt while you're in college? You know what I mean? Like, maybe, you go to the G League and you play a couple of years and then you get up to the big leagues and probably have a legendary career.
Well, I mean, the difference is, like, I'm sure a lot of these guys are obviously getting scholarships, but I also want to kind of go on the fact that, and we might be kind of going off track here, but this is what we do here. Like, the whole thing with college not being necessary, like, Zach is in this kind of situation, and we've talked about this. I know how you feel about college, but I want to talk to you about, like, how, kind of relating your experiences and how this could happen with these guys. Because, like I said, I don't like, we're talking about college not being necessary. Like, it's really not necessary for these guys that are going to go there for 1 year and kind of, go there for 1 year and then obviously go to the NBA. Like, I just don't think it's necessary. Like, what's your opinion on this? Like, I know your feelings on college and stuff like this, so I want to get your opinion.
Specifically talking about the players, I'm sure that, first of all, the professors hate teaching those classes to your student athletes who are just there because they're good at sports and they're going to make money off sports in their life. They don't care about school.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they get put into classes that are just sort of pointless. And just wasting money just taking a pointless class. So I agree with the NBA G League because they just need another way to get in. There's no reason for them to go to college to do something that's completely irrelevant to education.
Yeah. You know what? I thinking about that point, like there's a show on Netflix, Last Chance U, which I'm a big fan of, and it's the premise of it is that they go to a college that it's like a JUCO college, and there's players with a lot of issues that they had in their background, and they come to college, and like what they showed in there is what I imagine happens in a lot of colleges. Like they would literally go to class, just sit there, just to be there, and then like by the end of the year, scramble like to make sure like they made up their grades.
Mhm.
Like a lot of these guys are just going there to pass, so they can just make it to the NBA, like so they can just be eligible. They're only going
Right.
to school to be eligible to play basketball. Like my whole thing is like, why you're wasting your time? Just go
Mhm.
like this again. I cannot be like this is such a good idea. And look, I'm a huge fan of college basketball. Like
Mhm.
I love it, but I don't agree with everything about it. And you're just wasting these kids' time. Like again, a kid that's coming out of college or high school, sorry, that's going to be a top pick. You already know it. Everybody knows it. What's the point of going to college, wasting your time? Also, to mention earlier, Bobby, you're talking about scheduling.
Not only wasting your time, but wasting other people's
Yeah,
time too.
exactly. Yeah, and talking to your point earlier about scheduling, like the schedules that these guys have to go through just because obviously they're practicing every day, scheduling classes at times, like weird times, like it just doesn't make so too much sense to me. Like
Mhm.
I think the other alternative that maybe NCAA was looking at, and maybe now it's too late, was stopping the one and done thing. But the problem with that is there's obviously a lot of regulations going through the NBA and stuff like that about the rule. So I think this is like a really, if anything, it's a great alternative. I would like to, it's going to be interesting to see the first person who does it and see who kind of follows, kind of thing. Like, um, obviously the money is enticing. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, what these guys are going to be making in the NBA, like 125K, is not that.
Mhm.
It's not. It's a drop in the bucket for them, but it's something to get them started. They're making something with they're not making college. Um, yeah, I think
But you're
it's
saying they'll
something.
be paid 125K in the G League,
Yeah,
Yes.
dude? That's a six-figure job right out of college, even if you don't make it to the NBA.
Mhm.
but
Like,
yeah, but like the thing about this is going to be for a lot of elite prospects. So like,
right. So they
it,
probably will make it to the NBA.
yeah, exactly. Like if they're doing this, they'll be making it to the NBA.
Mhm.
I guess the flip side of this, which I mean, I see their point on this. I forget who put this out there. It was um, somebody from Bleach Report, I want to say. Like one of their guys put out a thing like saying like, I guess the NBA G League is not the most royal thing out there. Like there's a lot of you're traveling by bus for many hours,
Mhm.
and the facilities you get at college are honestly better than what you're getting at in the G League. However, the NBA has said that they're gonna try, put as much into this as they can, and do what they can to make facilities that are good enough, and have programs to develop these players. I think if you're looking at that, like going to Duke and having the lavish life that you're gonna have there for a year, might maybe that outweighs it for some players,
Mhm.
rather than going to the G League where you're gonna be taking the bus across the fucking states and along. I don't know. I mean that's kind of the only downside to it. I feel like, and I'm sure a lot of players will again a lot of the 125K right off the bat is appealing, obviously. So I hope players actually do consider this a route. But
If I can add another spin that I have been reading on for this, that is way out of what we've already talked about. The WNBA. Not a lot of players are happy about this.
No, not at all.
So, and forgive me, I'm not too educated on the WNBA, so if I get any names wrong or anything wrong, I apologize. I tried. A lot of players have viewed this as a slap in the face, because a lot of the example they use is the first overall pick of the WNBA draft last season. Her name is wow, why can't I find it? I'm sorry.
Keep talking, I'll find
it. Wilson, something Wilson. Oh my god, I can't find it. AJ Wilson. AJ Wilson. Sorry, Aja or AJ. Wilson. She was the first overall pick. She made $52,000 last year in her rookie season. And the comparison to that is the NBA's first overall pick, which was DeAndre Ayton, made $8.2 million. Here's the thing. So obviously the WNBA is a subsidiary of the NBA. Like they're both like the same company, just different. They're one big company that has two different divisions. Right. So they're owned by the same people. The WNBA is criticized pretty heavily. And there's been a lot of questions about the WNBA wage gap and stuff like this. There was somebody who was AJ Wilson was also critical of LeBron James' contract that he signed with the Lakers in July, which sparked a discussion about the wage gap. So this article is definitely on their side, saying that they have a point. They have a point to a degree. The NBA is a very, very profitable league.
This is exactly the point.
Like, and I listen. I'm not a fan of this, but this is what it is, right? There are definitely people in the WNBA who can dribble circles around me. So I'm not gonna pretend that I'm better than them or that men are better or anything like that. I'm sure there are women in the WNBA who could break ankles for some of the players in the NBA, right? So the WNBA, I don't think has anywhere near the numbers of what the NBA is currently at, right?
No, not even close.
Where the numbers here, I gotta find it. This is what stood out to me the most here. So, this is from sportsnews.com. It says the WNBA pays around 20 to 30% of its revenue to players, while the NBA pays 50% to its players, which is a huge difference. So what the WNBA actually can warn the league by October 31st that they want out of the current CBA, which expires after the 2019, and then they can kind of negotiate this. So what I'm assuming is that they're going to ask for something similar, 50% of the revenue. My question is WNBA, the subsidiary, making enough money to even do that, right? I mean, that's part of the reason the NBA is able to offer these big contracts out, is because they make a ton of money.
So that's what it comes down to. Like, look, I mean, I agree. Like, I have nothing against like women playing basketball or something. It's just the fact of the matter is that they, the NBA is making, I'm sure, like billions of dollars a year.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't even think that's a stretch, because I think the NBA is becoming one of maybe the most popular sport in the country.
Yeah.
The WNBA is just not even close to that. Attendance wise, merchandise wise, just revenue in general, they're just not making what the NBA is. So like, look, I get it, like the wage gap, but all these WNBA players coming out and saying what they're saying, like, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it because it's just there's not enough money there. You know what I mean? Like there's only you can only get paid so much because the league is getting paid so much. Now it's interesting you brought up the point with the total what the NBA is paying their players and WNBA because I didn't know that. Maybe that is something they can renegotiate in the CBA. However, I mean what are you looking at like increase wise? So the top pick made 50K. You said like what are they? I mean, I guess it would be closer to. I guess players like I'm trying to think what like average players would make. Like I guess they would be
Like, what does the average player in the NBA make?
the WNBA.
The WNBA? It did say. I think it said something.
Like I would assume like
Well,
30K maybe.
it's gotta be somewhere around there. Maybe it's not in here that I was looking at.
I don't know.
I actually did find a note that said, despite decreasing increased interest, the revenue hasn't followed. A WNBA spokesperson said the league has lost significant money every year of its 21-year history. A person familiar with the situation told Sport News the league expects to lose $12 million in 2018, which isn't helping this case. But then we have sales numbers that are apparently up. I can't find the average.
Okay,
I can't find it, so we'd have to look it up. But the fact of the matter is, look, the WNBA is probably not making anywhere near the money that the NBA is, so they may not be able to afford to pay the 50% that the NBA does. That being said, it's not like I'm against the idea. It doesn't really, women are getting beaten up there just as much as CP3 was last night. So, they're throwing their bodies out there, getting hurt, getting injured, putting their body on the line, for things and deserve to be paid for it, right? I'm not in their accounting department. I'm not a financial expert, but there is something to be said for it, and I'm not against it. If they came out tomorrow and said, okay, WNBA players are going to get similar contracts to guys like LeBron James and other top NBA stars, awesome, cool, right? It's just that I'm reporting this because there were a lot of WNBA players who were coming out against this yesterday, just because the elite prospects are making 125 grand, and that the maximum veteran salary in the I found it. The G League is going to pay 125,000 to a handful of players. The maximum veteran salary in the WNBA is $115,500. So, yeah, I can see why they're upset. I'm curious how the WNBA even responds to this, or what are they even going to do? Can they do anything at all? Right.
Again, I just it's just unfortunately it's just not like logical, like just with the money they make. Like I think
just isn't.
Yeah, I think we can both we can all agree here that like they should be like
they should be paid.
Yeah, it's just that it's literally impossible like with the money they make.
Yeah, at least everything that we're reading says that. I'm not looking at all the numbers over here, and able to make that distinction. But everything you're reading says it's like this. It's going to be hard to do. It should happen, but it's going to be very hard to accomplish. So, and I guess that means that the WNBA is really going to have to. I would predict that they get out of their CBA at the end of the month.
Yeah,
expires the end of the season, so we might see some fireworks.
Now with this coming out, yeah, and kind of reeling it back in to what we were talking about. I mean, I think for like a college player, or I keep saying college player, if they want to be in college, it would be a high school player coming out.
Right.
I think this is enticing just for the money wise because it's kind of not a kickstart. Like I said, if these guys are coming to the G League, they're gonna make the NBA because again they're elite prospects or most likely.
Mm-hmm.
But for the guys that some maybe fall off, like 125K from this, I think it's a good alternative at least to college.
Yeah,
I'm happy it exists. I am happy it exists.
Yeah, me too.
I know, and on the for the side of WNBA, I hope they figure something out as well. And I'm sorry that they feel cheated for it. There's a lot of the situational stuff is why this happened. I don't think it's a sexist thing. It's just that's just kind of how the dice have rolled.
Yeah, it's just how it works. Like I said, just with the revenue that.
Right, and I'm happy they're speaking their mind, but I wouldn't criticize the G League, right? I don't know if I would criticize the G League. I would criticize the company as a whole to figure something out. On the same token, something needs to be done about viewership and sales and stuff like that. Like, it's not making the money that it needs to for stuff like that. The NBA is.
Right.
And then some. So that's just me. I wanted to give alternate take because that was what was popping up a lot when I was doing the research for this initially.
Yeah.
So I did want to bring that up. Yep.
Yeah.
So wanted to do that.
And we will wrap it up there real quick, and I want to go through this quick. Me and Bobby are just going to give our week 7 predictions for the NFL, and then hopefully fucking Brendy will wake up for the Brendy worked late last night.
Yeah, probably worked late. We love him. We love him. We just like to bust on him for this.
But hopefully
I barely made it this morning. I would like to bring that up.
Yeah, we woke his ass up with a phone call. So
yeah, hopefully he gets his predictions up for the 1:00 games. But real quick, me and Bobby would just run through this. We're gonna start off with the Philadelphia-Carolina game. This one I have as a close one. I was kind of indecisive on this. This game is in Philly. Carolina is currently 0-2 on the road right now. And for that alone, I just took Philly because I could not differ between these teams. I think they're very similar. Philly is dealing with some injuries right now, and also they're just struggling this year. I'll go with a close one. I'll say 23-20. 23-20 Philly. And then Bobby, you can go ahead with your pick.
Yeah, so I weirdly have a little bit of a shootout going on, just a tiny bit. I have Philly winning 31-24. I'm with Tyler that I really can't differentiate these teams. They're on similar trends this year. But I do feel Philly is starting to get their steam back a little bit. So I think they're going to ride that wave. And Carolina hasn't been consistent, really. So I don't think they really have all the power they need to kind of topple the Eagles. But yeah, I can't really see a difference between these two teams in terms of trends and everything else. So I think I have Philly going to take this one, especially at home, 31-24.
All right, the next game we have on tap is the Houston Texans visiting the Jacksonville Jaguars. This game could decide who takes the lead in the AFC South, depending on the result of the game this morning in London, which is currently led by the Chargers in the third quarter. So this game's going to be interesting because last week, I don't know what the fuck happened to the Jaguars, but they got absolutely torched by Dak Prescott.
Yep.
And that defense has not been the same as it has been in past. Jalen Ramsey, a lot of talk this offseason about all this other sports stuff. He's been fucking, he hasn't been playing up to his standard. I think this could be. I just have a feeling like this is going to be like an ugly kind of game. Like there's going to be a lot of punts.
Yeah.
I don't know why I have a feeling like that. I'm going to go low scoring here, just because I think both offenses are going to struggle. I'll say that, and the final score will be like 40-39.
Oh yeah.
But I have the final being 21-13 Jacksonville.
So I have Jacksonville winning 27-14. Okay. For me, offensively, both these teams are lacking, right? But I just have a feeling that I feel like Jacksonville's offense will have, if they're going to have a good game against anybody, it's going to be Houston, especially in a divisional matchup like this that has some big implications. Because if the Titans lose, the winner of this game I think takes first place for right now. But if not, it's a fight for a second place spot. So I kind of think they're going to turn up for this one. And Houston's really going to have to backpedal, and they're really not going to have any power to push back. So I have Jacksonville winning and 27-14.
And the last game we have is New Orleans visiting Baltimore, and the defense that Baltimore has had this year has been insane. What was the stat, Bob? You said they've had
So
77 points
so far this season, they've only had 77 points against them.
through 6 weeks.
Right,
So,
which if you look at all the other stuff, all the other teams, you're looking at 110, 120 at the very least. And then there's the Ravens that have been stopping. They still lost games, but
Yeah.
it was still an interesting stat that I thought was cool and worth the mention.
So, saying that, you would think I'd have a prediction for a low-scoring game, but I do not. I think Baltimore kind of gets reality checked here by New Orleans. Now, the only question I have about this game is, and this could be a huge factor, honestly, is that Drew Brees and the Saints in general, offensively sometimes struggle when they don't play in a dome. They're home, which is a dome. The conditions here in the area, and I believe down in Baltimore, is around 50 degrees and windy. It's going to be interesting, and not that that's cold, but compared to playing in a dome, the conditions might change this, but I just think it's going to be a reality check. I have New Orleans winning 31-10, and that might be a hot take, but that's what I got. And Bobby, I'll get your prediction here. I was waiting.
Yeah, I know. So, all right. So, I actually have a low-scoring game for Tyler. I have actually New Orleans winning 21-17. There is something to be said about Baltimore's defense and what they've accomplished so far in 6 weeks. However, New Orleans has been pretty dangerous on the offensive side of things. As far as Baltimore's offense, Flacco's still able to throw, man. I mean, he's definitely not his prime anymore, but he's still decent, right? I mean, he's able to hit the mark when he can, and there's really nothing to be said for New Orleans defense. But I definitely see this, because they both have these really weird flaws, both these teams, just kind of going back and forth, with punting. So I have a very, very low scoring. I have 21-17. I think Brees is going to hit his marks, and I think Kamara's just going to light it up a little bit. So that's what I got.
And we will end the show there. Again, we apologize. I don't know how this show is compared to our other ones, but I did feel like we were just a little tired. But I think it was still a pretty good show. I think a lot of the topics we had this week are stuff we kind of had a pretty good debate on. But again, if we were off, we apologize. We'll be back next week for episode 11. Can do some housekeeping as usual. As Bobby mentioned last week, we are now on Spotify and Google Play. So if you are interested, you can listen to us there instead of YouTube. But we will always be here on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm still working on uploading all the episodes. Only episode 1 is available on Spotify and Google Play right now. I am working on it. I've been a bit behind recently. I did a monologue in episode 8 saying how much I suck. So so we can get back on it. But once I finally get the time to sit down, I plan on uploading all the episodes, and they'll be out shortly. So just keep an eye out for that. And then once I get them all updated, I'll be able to keep. That'll kind of be part of the post production process, is uploading to YouTube and also uploading to our distribution service. And as I say that, I see Zach logging into Spotify. I believe. I don't know if he's going to listen to music or he's checking if the podcast is there. But
checking if the podcast is there.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I saw his Discord
status. Just trying to find the page.
Yeah, and I'll look in the description, obviously, for those who are watching on YouTube. So, thanks so much for the support, as always. And yeah, again, sorry if we were a little off today. I'm a little scrambled, and I think we were a little all scrambled. So yeah. But we tried. We did our best. I think we did okay. We had some good conversation. So that's all I can ask for.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, as much as you say you suck, we do appreciate your work because.
Oh, thank you.
I couldn't do it. That's for goddamn sure.
Bullshit.
But yeah, so as I always say, if you liked the video, give it a like.
Smash that motherfucking like button.
Smash that like button.
And we're saying this at the end of the episode, like normal people, because how you gonna know if you like it? If you like it
Yeah.
before it starts.
You can't just be like the video because you gotta like
What if I
it
don't
if you
like it?
Yeah.
What if I don't like it? Do I dislike it? We appreciate all viewership and engagement.
Hey man, you give us feedback about what we can make it better.
Yeah. Tell us how to make this better.
If you're interested for updates from us, please follow us on Twitter at Complay Network. Brendy's been doing a good job there with social media. And yeah, we will be back next week for episode 11. Hopefully we get some good topics, and hopefully we're all here and accounted for, and we can kind of get back on track. But either way, thanks for listening. We will see you next week.